Hello and welcome to Talk Truth. My name is Corey Huntsberger. I got my father, Alan Huntsberger, in the studio. We're going to start off with our foundational verse like we always do. The earth and everything in it, the world and its inhabitants belong to the Lord, for he laid its foundation on the seas and established it on the rivers. Psalm 24, 1 and 2. We bring up that verse every program because there's a lot of people making plans for the world and telling us what to do. And we just want everyone to know, wait a minute, back up for a second. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it. He's the creator. So I don't know who you are. I didn't vote for you, so back off. Anyway, Alan, right? That verse is important for that reason and many other reasons, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of interesting. I was at a leaders' prayer breakfast in Calgary, and the speaker was kind of directing his thoughts exactly to this, that nations lose out when they lose their souls. And the soul, it means that, you believe that God is the king in charge. And if you don't believe that, then you start getting into tyranny. And that's the problem of a lot of nations that's going on. And he was talking about one of the things that Canada is doing has lost or is losing its soul. And therefore Canada is going to end up being a country that's run by,
soulless
tyranny.
people.
Yeah, right. Instead of being run by God, the creator of the universe.
Isn't that true? Yeah, that is interesting. Well, we've got a guest back who's been on a couple times. He's one of our favorites, and I know Canada loves you too. We got Matt Landman. Matt, thanks for coming back on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Corey and Alan. And when you talk about the soul and national and countrywide and whatnot, I think of sovereignty and how much we're losing that,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Matt, I know that you're the creator of the movie Frankenskies. We've talked about chemtrails quite a bit, and I know I told you off air that in one of the town halls, our Danielle Smith was asked the question about chemtrails, and what's good about it, her answer was, basically, it's not us, it might be the Americans. You know what I mean? So the blame is kind of thrown on the U.S. that your military is one coming over spraying our skies, but the point is, the conversation is getting out there. It's getting more public. People more and more are aware. I'm sure you've noticed that too. And so we really appreciate everything you do to try and educate people about chemtrails. What we're talking about today is the weather. We had 2 crazy hurricanes happen, in the U.S. And what's cool is a lot of people were suspicious of these hurricanes. More than ever have I seen on Twitter and social media and stuff, people saying something's not right here, something's not right. So I know there's something going on with weather modification. You've talked about it before. We're going to get into that a little bit, but I wanted to get your thoughts about the 2 hurricanes.
Definitely both were engineered and suspicious, Hurricane Milton and Helene, and God has a plan. God has a plan, and I'm sticking to that, and I will till the day that I die. I am very firm that the truth is unraveling. There's all sorts of Bible verses that say, like ask and knock and I will answer. And, if you ask for the truth and trust in it, it will show itself. So there's been this, we as activists, and we're, working in God's light, we have been planting these metaphorical seeds of truth for years now. I've been at it for a decade. And now finally the soil is fertile and these seeds of truth can germinate. And it's beautiful. It is amazing. People are waking up and it's a great time for the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you have a timeline that I wanted you to go through a little bit so people can, because you were telling me about the patents and all this stuff. This is all documented. This is all real. People, if they took the time, you can find it yourself, but go through your timeline a little bit and educate us.
Yeah, I have some bullet points in the timeline of it all. It's important if you have the time to watch Frankenskies, the movie, frankenskies.com. That film that I created came out in 2017, and it starts off in 1920s and starts giving people a taste of it. One of the things that really woke people up was Hurricane Helene because it gained momentum and gained power over land. And hurricanes don't do that. They don't go into the mountains 300 miles from the ocean at 2,100 feet above sea level and flood out towns. It's abnormal. It has never happened before. And people really started to question things. There was a senator, pardon me, a congresswoman out of Marjorie Taylor out of Georgia, and she said publicly that this is weather engineering. And then even Joe Biden had to come out publicly and do damage control on it. So the weather weaponization timeline, it goes all the way back to 1891 with a patent by the US government for a method of producing rainfall. I recommend people search online for an article titled 175 Patents Proving Geoengineering and Weather Control. That alone can get you to sink your teeth into it and start to see, well, if they're coming out with that many patents, and they continue to do so, about 100 patents per year on geoengineering. And then it really ramps up in 1962 when Lyndon B. Johnson, just 1 year before the JFK assassination, LBJ gives a speech at Southwest Texas State University saying, "Control the weather, control the world." And that clip is in Frankenstein's the movie as well. In that same year, Project Storm Fury, so making a storm furious, Storm Fury. In 1962, the weaponization of hurricanes is addressed, and this whole project lasts 21 years with the U.S. military-industrial complex, the Navy, the Air Force, the Army, Project Storm Fury. So if they were weaponizing hurricanes in the 60s, they likely still have that technology. They wouldn't have just shelved it or given it away to China. They probably still worked on it. 1967, Project Popeye, where Vietnam and the Ho Chi Minh Trail is flooded, weaponizing weather publicly. The UN had to come together and vote unanimously to ban weather engineering because it affects neighboring countries, and what happens upstream and downstream will affect other countries and what have you. Fast forward all the way to 1999, and we've got HARP in Alaska. It first began operations using atmospheric electrification to steer weather. And that's now evolved into NEXRAD and Doppler systems that literally use electromagnetic frequencies to steer and create hurricanes and steer storms and steer weather patterns. And you all actually have those as well. It's not just the US. And the US and the Canada and the UK, they all work in conjunction with one another to do geoengineering. So it's not just the states, although I do believe the United States is evil and behind a lot of this and what have you. I think they trade technology and whatnot. 2003, there's a patent for hurricane and tornado control and steering. 2009, Bill Gates and Microsoft then own the patent for halting hurricanes. So to me, this is like when the automotive industry, they find out someone's created a car that runs on water or something, and they go and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna give you a bunch of money for this patent." And the person who created the technology thinks, "Oh, they're gonna use this." No, they get it and they shelve it so no one else can have it. So Bill Gates and Microsoft own the patent to stop hurricanes and stop them dead in their tracks, but the technology doesn't get used for the good of humanity. In 2016, scientists created a Category 5 hurricane in a laboratory. So if hurricanes can be created, then people can start to wonder, are they being created? 2019, there's a patent for propagating sound through bodies of water to generate direct wind for the purpose of moderating and affecting weather patterns. And then there's also a U.S. Air Force document called Control the Weather, or Owning the Weather by 2025. And that's been out for some time. Those are just little, abbreviated bullet points of it all. There's a lot of different patents and what have you out there on it. And if you start to wrap your head around it, you can see how we got to where we're at today.
Wow.
A lot, right?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of saw something on the internet about North Carolina too, where there were some places that were like just absolutely flooded, and they're like 800 miles away from from the water. And it's kind of what you were saying, right? Like they can jump all this land and dump it wherever they want to dump it, right?
Well, yes, and in North Carolina, some people say it's political because this is a swing state going into the election. There's a lot going on there. There's lithium mines, and the lithium is needed. It's one of the biggest lithium deposits in North America, and there's a lithium mine there that's used for the lithium-ion batteries for the cars and all that sort of stuff, the electrical vehicles. And there's also find quartz deposits, and it's the best quartz in the United States, and they need that for the semiconductor industry, for the AI revolution. So it seems like a land grab, and then Agenda 2030 pushing people out of rural communities into cities. There's a lot happening there, but the locals on the ground, they are literally waking up, and it's unreal. There's a Facebook group that was all North Carolinians and asking people to, put their feedback. And when I went to go join the Facebook group, the one question it asked, usually it's like, do you agree not to, use profanity or whatever? The one question it asked is, are you willing to believe that hurricanes are engineered? And it's like, click yes, and now you can be in the group. So I feel it in my soul. I know that God has a plan. I pray and feel for the people impacted. I'm not happy that people are losing their livelihoods, but it is wonderful that people are waking up to this inconvenient truth.
Yeah. Well, there seems to be a lot. Go ahead, Alan. Sorry.
I guess the question would be, what do they ultimately want to gain out of all this?
Well, long-term agenda is transhumanism agenda, push people into cities so that they can control their destiny, which is control their soul. And that's the long-term agenda. But short-term, it's resources. And when I heard about Agenda 2030, I was always like, how could they actually push people out of these rural communities? That doesn't make much sense. But now that I see the writing on the wall with the weaponization of hurricanes, the fires in the West, and the different laws coming up where I live in Oregon, in the West Coast of the United States, there's areas where they've been deemed unlivable because they're fire zones. And when FEMA is coming, the FEMA is the U.S. government's damage control to help people that have been devastated by these hurricanes. They say they're running out of money, and different areas are not going to be able to be supported. And if there's not insurance and what have you, then they're going to have to push people out of that. They will push people out of those regions and say that it's just not livable, and they're sorry, you just can't live there anymore. It's to corral people in a city so they can be controlled, but ultimately it's a spiritual battle, I believe, to turn people into robots, long-term agenda. It really goes to, we can segue into 5G. The 5G scenario is a kind of long-term agenda to have it so that children conceived, born, and raised in a 5G environment, once they're of age, I believe they won't be able to procreate. And then there'll be this different push of, transfer your consciousness into a, clone cyborg version of yourself, and literally an abomination of what's, godlike, right? Like the soul and the human, and all this needs some sort of big catalyst. And so to get people into the 5G cities and the smart cities, 15-minute cities, all this sort of stuff, they have to say that the rural communities are not safe, because people sustainable and living in the rural communities, they can take care of themselves, and they're not surrounded by 5G cell towers and all, what have you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, when you talk about when you're talking about the weather modification, you were talking about frequency. They were using frequency. What kind of frequency? Is it the same thing as like a 5G frequency? What kind of frequency are they using?
Well, they do utilize the 5G towers, but there's these things called NextRad or Doppler radar. And the Doppler radar, they double as weather prediction and weather control. So I've got one where I live in Ashland, Oregon, on Mount Ashland. If I get the right perspective, I can go outside and see it. And it looks like a big, giant golf ball. These things are like $20 million. I tried to find out. They're about that. And they're all over the place now. You can look up where your local facility is. And what they do is they use intersecting radio waves to steer systems and create high pressure. And it's kind of like when you put something in a microwave, you've got clashing microwave radio waves on your focal point, which is the food, and then the oscillating water in the food heats up, and then it heats the thing in the microwave. Well, they're doing that in the atmosphere. It used to be HARP technology in Alaska, but now that's been kind of shrunk down and even put on ships and aircraft carriers. Like this Hurricane Milton, it was spawned out of the Gulf of Mexico. That does not happen. It's never happened, actually, to such a ferocity, intensity, and they have to come up with new words, extreme rapid intensification, because the winds went from 60 miles per hour to 150 miles per hour overnight. Hurricanes they are born off the coast of Africa because you've got hot and cold clashing. Those two clash together, hot and cold, to create thunderstorms or tornadoes and hurricanes. But in the Gulf of Mexico, that you don't have that. So they've figured out a way to spin things with frequency and zap them. And when the hurricane approached the coast, people had instances where their car batteries were dying and the sky was bright purple. And this is because of the electrification of the oxygen in the atmosphere.
Mm. Is that, I don't know if you know this or not, but like, what about the Northern Lights? Because it's like, we just recently during the Thanksgiving, we had Canadian Thanksgiving. Everyone was going outside. Doesn't matter where you were. I was in Lethbridge. There were people in Edmonton, you know what I mean? All over the place, you know, seeing the Northern Lights. Normally you couldn't see the Northern Lights, the real ones, unless you were like in the north. But now it's like all over. The Northern Lights don't look like they used to. Is there something there too?
I like that you're trusting your instinct and asking these questions. I hope that everyone else can do the same. Even down here in even Florida and Australia, people are seeing the Northern Lights.
Okay.
And this is all a play. Not Northern Lights. They're fake. They're from HAARP. The electrifying of the atmosphere, even on the HAARP website. So HAARP is this antenna array that engineers the weather, and on the HAARP website they say we're going to electrify the sky and it's going to look like the aurora borealis. Okay, I firmly believe and know from my research, but a lot of this you have to get into your gut and your center and trust your connection to higher self and God and, you know, the Holy Spirit, and your higher self is all linked to that. And if you trust that connection, you can find the truth in your heart, in your gut. And what's happening here is they're trying to demonize the sun, which they've been doing for some time. And that's why they say that there's geoengineering to dim the sun to make sure we don't get too much global warming and all this nonsense. It's all lies, right? But this new play of making these Northern Lights everywhere is to convince the world that the sun is getting crazy and these solar flares are just too crazy and that they're lighting up the sky. But eventually, I firmly believe that there will be a blackout, like a Carrington event kind of thing, where they fry the electronics, and then that'll just be another problem reaction solution where it's purposefully done. People respond in fear, and then it'll be some sort of Klaus Schwab Build Back Better scenario where they'll probably come out with chemtrails publicly and say, well, we've got this solution for you. We can put this metal layer between us and the sun, and you won't lose your iPhone next time and what have you. So that's the whole thing. I've got a silver clothing line kind of thing where I have blackout bags, and I'm making these blackout cigar boxes. So Faraday bags, and there's other Faraday bag companies and such, but I recommend people have stuff like that to preserve your hard drives and whatnot, because there surely will be, the writing's on the wall. Hopefully it's not anytime soon, but I do believe there will be a blackout grid meltdown, and they'll blame the sun.
You know, I've always said to people, you know, who say, "Oh, let's go look at the Northern Lights." I go, you know what? Those lights, there's a difference in those lights in the sky compared to when I was a kid.
Me too.
When I was a kid, it was really hard to see, and it was really multicolor. You know, like a lot of multicolor. Here, it's a lot of green. Like there's just, you know, it's like sheets of green. Now there is some multicolor, so it's got, you know, and I always say, you know, this has got to be something to do with you know, what the stuff that they're putting in our skies that is causing this kind of what people are thinking, seeing the Northern Lights, when in essence it is the Northern Lights, but it's shining on this stuff that they put in the skies. This is my belief.
Yeah.
and developing something that's really artificial.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Alan, because I'm not you know, I don't go around looking for crazy stuff. I looked at it and I was like, that's weird. And then someone else made the same comment. They're like, man, they look different. It's weird. from when I was a kid. And I was like, oh my goodness, I was thinking the exact same thing, you know? So that's kind of how my questioning of the Northern Lights that we just saw, it was stranger than it has been in the past. I guess that's the best way to say it.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you brought the topic up, because people have to learn to discern and trust themselves and not blindly just obey and listen to what the media tells you how to feel and what to feel and how to think and what to see. Even when these things first started coming up, they said, oh, go out and look at it through your camera. And where I live, everyone was in this frenzy because they were like, I can check it off the bucket list. I saw it on my camera phone. They didn't see it with their own eyes,
right?
You know, and that already is suspicious to me. Samsung has in the fine print, if you go outside with your Samsung new camera and you take a picture of the moon, it's going to search the internet and give you an AI image off the internet and say, there's your photo. So, I mean, if that technology exists, you've got to think that if you're not seeing it with your own eyes, then that's a big red flag. And then also, if it's looking differently and you've yet to wrap your head around chemtrails, it's important to do so, because these different chemicals get sprayed in the sky, they get zapped with electro stations, electricity and what have you, and they can and do make this light show, and to grasp why they're doing it is very important.
That's funny you said that, because when I went outside, I couldn't really see much, but when I put my camera up to take a photo of it, man, it was an amazing photo. That's funny you said that, man. My camera saw it, but my naked eye it was really tough to see. But I remember as a kid, it would be like right in your face, naked eye, no camera. We didn't have phones like that back then, you know, and it was fascinating. We got like 3 minutes left. I want to talk about, you said something about you're making Faraday bags and all this stuff. 5G, when it kind of first came out, you were making bags to put your phone in to kind of protect you from that frequency. Can you tell us a little bit about that story? Because you personally, as a creator of someone to help protect other people, saw a difference in the product that you were making and had to make adjustments, right?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So Michael Faraday is where it comes from. He created these Faraday cages where you go inside and no electromagnetic frequencies or radio waves or microwaves, nothing can get inside. It's a grounded cage of metal, mesh, basically. And so these Faraday foam bags, first I made them in 2018 when I came out with the company Spero, S-P-E-R-O. It stands for, it translates to hope in Latin, because I'm trying to bring hope to the next generation through education and awareness and protection of all of this stuff around us. So I made these foam bags. You put your phone in, you get no signal. And they were great. Everyone loved them. They put them in their nightstand and they don't have any radiation. While they're sleeping, they take their phone out, they get their text messages, ding, 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 but nothing works inside the foam bags. In March 2020, right when we got these lockdowns, and that was like a whole new word back then, lockdowns, like what, the whole world's getting locked down? In March 2020, customers started reaching out to me. All of a sudden, my phone bag is not working anymore. Phone calls are just going right through. And I'm like, oh, you must have a manufacturer's defect or something. Let me send you a new one. They get it in the mail and they're like, it doesn't work. The phone is just ringing through. I'm like, oh, did you get a different phone? Like, no. So their phone was upgraded in the middle of the night or whatever, and the frequency was cranked up so much that it was penetrating this thick layer of silver fabric. So I ended up making double layer foam bags. And then those worked fine for a little bit, but I kept having to evolve them. And now I'm on version like 9.0 because I thought I would be good for a while, but right when the Omicron variant came out, the foam bag stopped working again, and I had to make them 3 layers of metal fabric, and now I have to incorporate copper and nickel because it's denser than silver, and silver. So it's 3 metals, 3 layers, and now it's blacking out the foam bags again. But the whole process that I went through, I don't just jump to conclusions. I try to find things like as a causal relationship and not corollary. And I've concluded without any doubt that the phones were being turned up and that this radiation was giving people radiation sickness symptoms. And that was a lot of what was happening with the sickness that was going around. And I learned it firsthand with this 5G. So it's important for people to learn about what 5G is and how to mitigate it. It's a totally different frequency. It's much stronger than 4G. And it's important to not have that around your children, and to learn that low-level radiation sickness looks just like all these things: hair loss, fever, loss of taste, all these things that people were claiming were something else.
Wow.
You know, we got 20 seconds left. I just want to ask you about the telephones. There's telephones that are being developed. In fact, I think one of them is called Unplugged, where they can't follow the signal and all that kind of thing. Do you know anything about that?
There are phones that are coming out that are for more privacy, and I think that's important. I don't like all of the tracking. I mean, I was on the phone with my girlfriend the other day, and I said one thing about health or whatever, and then I go on my Facebook, and there it is. It's like they're monitoring, they're tracking, and I mean, we deserve privacy and security. And I love all these different things that are coming out, and I want to get something like that myself.
Well, Matt, I know every time we have you on, we give everyone one simple step. The last time was stop using the microwave to heat up your food, everybody. That was a simple step. Here's simple step number 2 with Matt. So when I answer a phone call like this with it up to my ear, I'm frying my brain, right?
Well, you can look in the manual that they send you, and they say don't put it up to your head. They literally do. I think speakerphone is your friend, and then also learn about the airplane mode. Turn. You don't have to have your phone on all the time. You know, learn about like its emitting frequency, and maybe you could check out while you're on your date or at dinner or sleeping or whatever. But distance is your friend. It's called the inverse square law. It's worth researching.
All right, everybody. That's step number 2 that you can do to help yourself is don't answer the phone like this. Put it on speaker and hold it out, to answer the phone, and also try using airplane mode a little more throughout the day. And Matt, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate everything you're doing. We're definitely going to have you back, my friend.
Thanks, Corey. Thanks, Alan. I really appreciate it. God bless.
Hey, we're still in October, and we're doing our Talk Truth Thanksgiving offering. If you're thankful for Talk Truth, thankful for the guests that we have on, thankful for the information that we bring to the country, we ask that you would support this program. And if you're not normally a monthly giver and you just want to do a one-time, go ahead, give us a call. Just say, hey, guys, I'm so grateful for you. I want to be part of the Talk Truth Thanksgiving offering. And whatever you can, we're 100% of your gifts is going to go to continue developing the production of our shows. We're going to get better. We've got expansion plans, a lot going on. And if you want to be a part of it, we ask you to join and be a part of it. You could go to our website, talktruth.ca, click on donate, and you can donate that way. You want to know more about us, you can go to our website, talktruth.ca. Rommel.com/talktruth is where you go to see all our programs, share them with your friends and family. If you'd like to support this program, be part of our Thanksgiving offering, you can go to talktruth.ca, click on donate. Or if you just want to do it through check, you can make it payable to Heritage Christian Ministries Association, and you can send it to 246 Stewart Green, Southwest, Suite 3260, Calgary, Alberta, T3H3C8. And you can always follow us on social media. I can't forget that, on Instagram, Facebook, X, at TalkTruthCA. All right, Dad, we're out of time. We'll see you guys later.
Love you.